Hey, it's Danny, and I want to show you how I built this mirror. It has a curved solid wood frame and smart LED lighting, all for around 100 bucks. Compare that to the price of brand new, and I'd say it's a worthy build. So enough of my babbling, let's get going. I started off cutting some pine boards over on my table saw sled. I'm using a kerf bending template, which I'll link in the description. This was as easy as moving the boards notch by notch, locking them down, and then running them through each pass. There are some great kerf bending tutorials online, so please check those out for more details. After the boards were nice and bendy, it was clamping time. I used as little glue as possible here. You'll see these kerfs won't be supporting any weight, and I'm trying to avoid any needless excess sanding. These bends have a little spring to them, so I'm throwing them into clamps until they dry. Then with a stop block, I trimmed them all to the same length. I'm using box joints to join together the frame, so I created this simple jig to make accurate, repeatable cuts with a router, and I repeated this on each end. You'll see how this all comes together here in a few moments. Now to build out the height and width of the frame. This was one of those measure twice, cut once kind of situations. I had to account for the width of the box joints, but I didn't account for the rabbet groove that the mirror will later sit within, so I'll soon pay the price for that. So what we're gonna do, let's take our pieces, glue them up with these little springy clamps, and then we'll have a hopefully pretty dope mirror frame. Isn't there a saying about not celebrating too soon? Here's the rabbet groove the mirror will sit within. During routing, I set the router to take way too much material at once, especially for these kerfs. Some of the kerfs started flying off, but I didn't fret too much since it was the back of the mirror anyway. This is when I realized things were really going south. The mirror appeared to be too big to sit within the frame, but I hoped once I trimmed the corners, I could kind of force it into place. Here's another first for me, cutting glass. This video is anything but a glass cutting tutorial. Don't do what I do. It somehow worked, but I should have just been patient and bought some glass breaking pliers. I tried one final test fit, still didn't work, big surprise there. I could have tried to trim a mirror on the entire side, but I didn't want to risk the likely chance that I would break it. I wasn't quite ready to build a new frame yet, so instead I tried to widen the groove the mirror sits in. This was my worst idea yet. Because I was freehanding this part, I kept hitting the kerfs, and well, this happened over and over again. Off camera, I built an entirely new frame, this time measuring correctly and taking my time to cut out the rabbet grooves in several passes. I ran into none of the issues I had prior, and most importantly, the mirror actually fit. With that headache over, let's move on to the final touches. Using wood putty, I filled all the voids, trying my best to push it down into the kerfs. I was surprised to see that this actually worked out really well. After that dried, I gave the whole piece a good sanding, knocking down any high points in the joints, and because I didn't get crazy with the glue, the inside bends didn't require all that much extra attention. This was a bit nerve-wracking. I'm giving the outside a round-over treatment, paying extra attention to the kerfs. It went beautifully, and I'd say it's about time. I again filled any leftover voids and more sanding. On another mirror, I've had the reflective foil rust, and so I applied some primer to hopefully prevent that. I also wanted the extra scratch protection and to give me some more grip for some clips I'll be gluing on later. I was really paranoid about breaking it at this point, so I added some reinforcement to the inside. Probably unnecessary, but it did make me feel better. With the straight edge, I made a jig to cut grooves for LED diffusers into the mounting frame behind the mirror. In several passes, I routed a groove until I matched the final depth of the aluminum channel, then trimmed the channels over on my miter saw. Does anyone else feel weird about cutting aluminum on a wood saw? I mean, I know steel is stronger than aluminum and all, but it just feels weird to me. Unfortunately, the cut locations on this waterproof strip didn't match the length I needed, so I figured I could just melt the solder like any other strip. I was very wrong, and I rendered the entire LED strip useless as far as I can tell, so take number 2. This time I checked, and this strip had solder points on both ends, so I was able to add an additional wire between the two channels that'll be on each side of the mirror. I cut a French cleat, which is what I'll use to hang the mirror. I used pocket holes and a bit of glue to assemble the frame. Here's the wire I'm using to connect the two sides of the LED lights. You don't want to see me cut glass, and you definitely don't want to watch me solder. You'll just have to take my word on this one. Before attaching the LEDs, I put a few coats of polyacrylic on both sections with the light sanding in between. And here's a quick tip. While waiting for the finish to dry between coats, I wrap the brush in a plastic bag and seal it off with some painter's tape. Works really well. LED strips are notorious for having bad adhesion, but this strip seemed to hold quite well. I then slid the plastic diffusers into the aluminum channels and secured the run of wire in between. Not the most elegant solution, but let's be honest, this whole project is kind of a rough draft. With my 3D printer, I created a bunch of clips to attach each part. I figured this way, if the mirror got scratched or the wood was compromised due to moisture or poor build quality, I could replace each element individually as needed without having to toss the entire thing. I didn't get much footage of the installation because I was also filming for my previous video, my bathroom renovation, so I was eager to finish this mirror so I could complete that project. After attaching the French cleat to my bathroom wall, I hung the mirror and well, here it is. Let's talk price. I spent about $30 on pine boards, $25 on the LED strips, $40 on the mirror, and about $5 prorated worth of items like the aluminum channels, wood finish, LED wire, stuff like that. I'd say money well spent, but let me know what you think. I do seriously read all of my comments. If you'd like to see me renovate my bathroom from this to this, I'll link to that video somewhere. I had a lot of fun with the edits on that one. I maybe went a little overboard, but if you liked this video, I think you'll like that one as well. As always, thanks for watching.